Hello, everybody. It's 11:12 p.m. Central Time on the 28th of September, 2022. It's Wednesday night here in the United States. Hope you are doing well. We are here to talk about earthquakes. In case you don't know where you're at, you're on the former Earthquake 3D live stream, now being recorded. In case you don't know, we're on a premiere here on YouTube, but I'm recording this uncut. Now I need to bring you up to speed. We have a new large earthquake, which is struck down here on the, north side of Antarctica. Anything north of Antarctica is the north side, but we're on the northeast side, and we come off of the plate boundary. Let me show you the plate boundary map here from the USGS. Here's the Pacific plate, for instance. Going over to the East Nazca plate, we go down to the east by southeast, following the fracture zone. We go around the south tip of South America, and we come down here to this area called the South Sandwich Islands, which is right where the new earthquake struck, the new 6.5 to 6.7. And this is somewhat of a big deal for me, because if you go over to my YouTube channel and watch my last video, this area right here, I even cracked somewhat of a crude joke about the area. This area right here was open, and we were waiting for a similar sized earthquake to what struck up in Mexico, which was right here in Mexico, a 6.8 and a 7.6. We're going to look for the same sized activity to go down to the very far southeast tip, which is really, again, belonging to Antarctica. Even though it's belonging to Antarctica, we follow the fracture zone back over to the Pacific, and we expect the same size movement on one side to go on the other, and that has happened. So a new large earthquake has struck, and I would just like to quickly look up the information from the USGS, who have it at a 6.5. I notice they do have the little wave icon, the little tsunami icon that's appearing there when you click on the earthquake. We'll wait and see and look it up. Of course, I'm running on a slower connection, in case you didn't know. But so let's just go ahead and click on the tsunami information. It's probably going to be an information statement, and I say probably, I have to guess. Yeah, no tsunami warning, advisory, watch, or threat, even though they do have the earthquake listed. Okay, all right, that's good news. So this noteworthy earthquake, we should probably also quickly, while I've got you on here, we can jump back over to the USGS information on this page and look up the origin details, see what the magnitudes are showing. I don't think they'll have local magnitudes that list on here because it's such a far away earthquake, but body magnitude, for instance. Let's go see what we've got. We'll throw out the high end, and we will throw out the low end. Throw out the high end, it looks like the highest that we're going on body magnitude, which is a slightly different way of measuring. I wouldn't really know. I don't calculate earthquakes myself. Probably should have learned. Anyway, going down the list, the highest that we're going up on this list is 6.7 to 6.8, and the lowest we're going is 5.8, 5.9. That would leave us, right in the middle, 6.5. Okay, so Europeans have it at 6.7. USGS has it at 6.5. It's on the plate boundary. Let me take you back over to the plate boundary map and zoom in on it real close here. Coming off the tip end, going over to the east, we have fracture zones that connect into the South Atlantic. This segues nicely into the rest of the earthquake update. A 5.2 also struck just north. Now watch this. 4.7 struck on the coast of Chile. 4.7 struck over on the mid-Atlantic ridge. We go further up the coast. We have a 5.5 that struck at the Cocos plate going west of Central America, and we have a 5 and a 5 which struck over to the east, going east of Puerto Rico out to our letter X. It's about the same size movement, going on both sides of South America, spreading in both directions around South America. When I say around South America, I really mean it. Look on the north side up here, going through the Caribbean. Do you see that? Do you see how it's making a shape somewhat similar to what's going on down south? Now, to really see this, I need to bring you over here to good old Google Earth, and we need to do something that most people never do, which is turn the Earth sideways. And people who pay attention to the flat Earth topic are going to love this. One half of the planet, complete water. The other half of the planet, connected with continents, going around this way. Pretty wild, right? Okay, anyway, we get back over here, and now look around South America the way you've never looked at it before, and what you will see is on the north side and on the south side, it's the same shape. It's like slow-moving molasses flowing over around or around South America on the north side and the south side. Now I'm going to zoom in. You're going to see a bunch of volcanoes appear here from the Smithsonian, and they say it's about a 25,000-foot drop-off. Or, I'm sorry, 20,000-foot drop-off, 19 to 20, here all the way around this edge, and it's lined with volcanoes. That's on the south side of South America, or in between Antarctica and South America. Now we're going to go on the other side. Here's the Caribbean, and lo and behold, look, same shape, same size, and same depth drop-off, 18 to 19 to 20,000 feet. So this is a flow over point, but it's flowing over a long period of time, and then we'll get into this big square shape here, or rectangular shape, at some future point. Not now, but I will be addressing that at some point in the future. You can guess where I'm going to go with that. Right angle, perfect right angle going through the, and this is from bathymetric undersea measurements. You can't tell me that that's a glitch or an error or whatever. Anyway, so we're going around South America on two sides, up to the north and down to the south. Now let's go back over to the USGS map. It's going to make a little bit more sense because the energy that's pushing is coming across from the West Pacific. It's spreading across and going and following the plate boundaries. North side, south side. Now in the middle, look what's going on. Look at the spacing on the quakes going down. This is from the USGS, the spacing, but you should be able to see it here. It's like a stepping stone path through an uneven garden path. So they're equally spaced stepping stones through an unequally spaced path. Do you follow me on that? And the magnitudes on this are all about the same within a hair of a point of each other going all the way up the coast. We have a 4.4, a 4.3, and a 4.7 up north. And then down south, a 4.7, a 4.4, a 4.3, another 4.4, and another 4.4. Wouldn't you call that all about the same movement? Going from here all the way down to here, or going from Ecuador all the way down to South Chile in the course of a day? I wouldn't just ask you, wouldn't you call it? That's what it is. Now, the same thing's going on the north side. We have a 5.5 out over on the west side of Mexico. We also have a 5 that struck up right just south of California. We'll talk about that in a second, 5.4 to 5.5 as well. So let's just call those two 5.5s. Add those two 5.5s together. They equal about a 5.6 to a 5.7. If you add in these two 5s, now all of a sudden we're at 5.8 and 5.9. So two 5.5s together equals 5.6 to 5.7. Adding in two more 5s equals 5.9. Why does that matter? South side would get a 6.7 to 6.5. North side would get about a 6 worth of energy. But the north side is spread out all the way from the border of the United States and Mexico, all the way back down to the south, down to where this earthquake is here on the edge of the Cocos Plate. Now look what happened over to the east. My warned area over to the east. Well, I shouldn't say my warned area. The letter X over to the east. There's nobody to warn out here. That's what I'm talking about. So there it is. Letter X hit. Now the new earthquake struck back behind it. We have to look just back a couple days. Take this down to 4.0. The USGS ignored the earthquake over here at Jamaica. I sure hope not. Hold on. There it is. Make note of where the new 5 struck, marked in white, in comparison to where the previous 4.3 to 4.5 struck north of Jamaica next to Cuba, and the other 5 struck this morning. Notice where we are? We're at the halfway point in between the earthquake a day and a half, 2 days ago over to the west, and the earthquake that just struck out next to the letter X over to the east. We'll go back over and look at the USGS map. So we got quakes over here, and we got a quake over here, and the halfway point between the two comes in right here on the edge of the plate. So now you can check off two things. You can check off the Caribbean with a flow going across it. However, I'm not lifting the warning where the rings overlap here. Do you see that? So we have a 5 all the way over here in the eastern edge of the Caribbean, right on the edge of the plate boundary where it makes a bend here. Just like this one down here to the south. Right on the edge. But back behind it, I've got my warning going for Dominican Republic for 5.0 level activity to up to upper 5 level activity. With all this activity over to the west, over off the coast of Central America, I'm not going to cancel it yet. We have a few more days to go. And look, the pinkish colored earthquakes from like a day and 2 days ago. If I get those out of there, show you the most recent. Notice there's an open silent zone there. So we're going to watch from the open part between where the previous earthquake was right there. And then that takes us where the rings overlap. Boom, right on to Dominican Republic. So I'm going to keep watch there for the next few days. We have to talk about the United States. This is pretty interesting. Hawaii got hit. Where? Bahala. Just south of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And let's just show you where it struck. I told you a few days ago we were moving across half the island, and we were going to go back up to near 5. Well, here we are. We are at 4.4, and it's been a minute since you had any big activity. The swarm also increased, went across from Mauna Loa down to Pahala, and then you have like a triangle of earthquakes on all sides of the area that now just broke with the new 4. So really what was going on, again, the flow was coming in. You can even trace this. Do you see this line, this diagonal line of quakes going from Mauna Loa down to the coast, and then a cluster along the coast? Now, if you follow that back, it goes just like the other day when I showed you previously when I covered Hawaii a few days back. There was a line of earthquakes going from Hualalai up here on the northwest coast all the way across Mauna Loa, back down across to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and even beyond, down to Pu'u'o'o. And that line is now carried on from Mauna Loa over to Pu'u'o'o, and the big earthquake struck on the east side. But look at the way it's pointing. Look which way it's pointing. Do you see it? Northwest to southeast? Well, look what else is going northwest to southeast. The whole Hawaiian island chain, right? We already know that, right? But it goes back up to the west-northwest, which is why I warned Hawaii. And look where it goes. It goes right back up to where our new earthquake, same size, 4.4 to 4.5, struck today. In the middle, do you see it looks like almost like an arrow? I showed this in my last update, but I'll show it again. So right here, we escape out of Kamchatka, and we go down to the Hawaiian island chain, which then branches off and goes out over to the east into the fracture zone. Now, on one side of the Hawaiian island chain, of course, you've got Hawaii branching out to the fracture zone. Over here is Tamu Massif, either the largest or one of the largest undersea supervolcanoes. The largest on the planet. I mean, it dwarfs Yellowstone in size. Anyway, Tamu Massif is here, and then Mauna Loa is the largest shield volcano on the planet, and it's above, of course, the ocean, and above sea level over in Hawaii. And they're on both sides of this line here. Now, this line goes down and across over in the East Pacific, and it makes a crescent shape, and it's a line of undersea mount volcanoes. It goes down across, over, and connects down into Peru, and it really just cuts the Pacific in half. And Hawaii branches off of it, and the flow comes from up here. Now let's go back to the USGS map. The flow comes from where? The flow comes from up here. The Northwest Pacific comes out of there. Notice USGS has Jack Squat there, but you can see it. So you don't need them to mark it for you. And they missed this. This is a line that cuts the whole Pacific in half, a line of undersea mounts. Hawaii branches off of it. And then everything east of there, you have these somewhat equidistantly spaced fracture zones. Do you see them? They go all the way to the north. They're like rungs on a ladder or latitude on a map. But these are fracture zones that spread east and west. And they go back to what? That undersea mount chain. There's 2 spots where they come through. American Samoa, right here, where there's another giant undersea mount supervolcano, by the way. I don't know the name of it. But it connects back over here to the Indo-Australian plate, and then what we see is deep earthquakes. Deep earthquakes come up from down below our letter Ds. I'll get into them in a minute. But down below our letter Ds, new deep earthquakes come up, pushing on the underside of the plate, which then spreads to this undersea mount chain, where then there's an equalization that goes over to the east and spreads across the entire Pacific. It goes up across to the north and goes the way I just told you, down and into Hawaii this way. Now, at the same time Hawaii started to move, we previously, the day before, had a 4.8 earthquake strike here in Alaska. Well, where? Here, hold on. Strike here in Alaska and down on the coast of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone of the United States. Coast of the United States, Juan de Fuca fracture zone, I mean. Right here at the southern tip, 4.8, prompting me to issue a new warning for the LA basin. So what's hit since? Well, a lot. A lot of activity has hit since that 4. Let's get that 4 out of there. Here's everything that's hit since that 4. The number of earthquakes going through the roof. We'll talk about the swarms and so forth, but the first thing we got to talk about is the coast of Mexico. Down here, 5.5, in the Gulf of California, or you could just call it Baja, Mexico, right down here where it says Gulf of California. You see the fracture zone? It's the red line. Red line goes back up to the west by northwest. Hopefully you can see all this. And it connects back up here to Salton Sea, where it then goes into the San Andreas, into the LA Basin. So we get a new 5.5 down here, again in the middle of the Gulf of California yesterday. Now back up to the north, if we look at all the other earthquakes, look at where we went. Well, hold on. Let me turn off the magnitudes first of all and turn down the rings so you can see because there's so many. So there's the state of California. This is 3 days worth of earthquakes. Let's get 2 days on there. There we go. Here's 2 days. So I want you to compare the earthquakes coming, for instance, out of the northwest, coming out of, let's say, Washington. There's a line of them up on the coast of Washington, and then a spread of them going in 2 lines down through Oregon. Do you see that? Almost looks like a stick person with just legs and no arms, or one arm sticking out. Now, over on the east side, over here in Montana, going down into Yellowstone National Park, we have clusters of earthquakes, and we're stacking up with quakes at Yellowstone. I want you to compare that to this. Hold on, let me get this on the screen. The North American Craton. Now, the North American Craton, I want you to remember this, especially in the northwest, up at Idaho and Montana. If you look at the diagram in the northwest U.S., the round, rusty, brownish color. So if you look at that at the northwest, you will see it. It goes right down through Yellowstone. Then it goes down through Colorado and then into Texas. Then it makes a bend through Texas and goes back into Oklahoma, then to the New Madrid seismic zone. Over in, of course, the New Madrid is in Missouri in the central United States. Now, the earthquakes are mimicking that. The only thing missing is a series of earthquakes in Colorado to do a stepping stone path out of Montana down to Yellowstone National Park. Missing Colorado. Going back over here to the edge of the Craton in Texas, making a bend in that similar shape, going right up into Oklahoma where we're starting to swarm. Now, every one of these locations in Texas and Oklahoma is a drill point. Every single one. And I could waste an hour going and looking them all up. I can pull a coordinate from the middle of the whole bunch here in Texas. Let's get the biggest of the bunch. And we'll do the same thing for Oklahoma. Now notice this is many miles inside the border of Texas, but they list it 57 kilometers south of White City, New Mexico. Now there are nearby towns, so there's no real good explanation for listing it out of New Mexico. And it's a 3+ swarm in Texas. So we're looking for Texas to go up to near 5.0 within the next day or two. We're down to the last day of the warning, really, so today. But I'll give it till tomorrow. I mean, again, 24 hours. But here we are. We're in Texas, and everybody knows about Texas and oil pumping operations, I think. At least you may have heard of it in the past. But all of these little specks on the ground, things like this. Hundreds, if not thousands, of oil wells per operation. And let me just zoom in on it. I'm not against oil and gas at all. I just want to stress that. Again, I'm not, making a political statement or anything. But the number of drill points along the edge of the North American Craton, it matters. If you drill the edge of the Craton and then you push it from the west coast, or Mother Nature does, or somebody does. Anyway, we're over here over to the side of this huge pumping operation, and there are millions of drill points. Let me show you an example of millions spread out across several Texas counties. So if you're looking on a small screen, you probably won't be able to see it. So I really need to zoom in and show you. These are not houses, and these are not clear cuts for forestry. Every single one is a different oil or gas well. And again, there's jacks and pumps and pipelines which connect each different pumping operation. And when I say millions, I'm not exaggerating. So we can back it out, and you'll be able to then make out we're talking whole Texas counties this way. And I'll turn on our borders and labels so you can see what a Texas county is. If you're not familiar, Texas counties are huge. They're big, giant squares. So here we are. All of these. Every little dot on the ground is a different oil well. Goes over to the west and carries on over to the foothills, where we go up to the earthquake, which is right next to here, which is at a series of more pumping operations. We're literally a few hundred feet off from the nearest drill point. So this pumping operation goes into the millions of drill points, which then are on the edge of the North American Craton, which I keep talking about in this update. Now, the edge of the North American Craton gets displaced by a push or pushes from the west coast. We'll go back and show you this is one of my biggest discoveries. Tension or power or force comes in from, or a wave comes in from the northwest, and then it goes into the edge of the North American Craton. The earthquakes mimic this over the course of a week or so. We're looking at 2 days worth of earthquakes now. The course of a week goes all the way across and up the east coast. Perfectly. Coming out of the northwest, pointing in like an arrow. This is 7 days worth of earthquakes now reported from the USGS. What you'll see is a line of earthquakes that goes down California's border with Nevada down to the nuclear test sites, and then makes a hard branch over into Utah, and then something that looks almost like an arrow shape goes over to the edge of the Craton. Same time, we have a line of earthquakes coming in from the northwest going down to Yellowstone. When I say that, I mean it. A line that comes in and reaches over to, down across, down over to Texas, and then it's really obvious that there's a line that goes from Texas back up into Oklahoma, and then it's like another arrow. Let me turn down the rings a little bit. It's like another arrow shape pointing up to the east by northeast to the next round of quakes, and everything that does not get expended at the drill points makes its way across the plates. Simply put, all those drill points absorb a lot of that, break, and you see breaking happen back in Texas and Oklahoma, and the leftover remnants tend to go over to the east. And when a big push comes across, it goes right across. So we get not much loss of momentum going across the plate. It literally, we've seen in the past, a 5.9 strike on the west coast, a 5.9 strike in Colorado, and a 5.9 strike over in Virginia on the edge of the Craton, all in a day or 2 days. Especially the 5.9 in Colorado and the 5.9 in Virginia. A lot of people might remember the 6.0 that struck in Virginia 10 years ago, at least about 10 years ago, in Virginia, Mineral, Virginia, that 5.9. 12 hours before that 5.9, Colorado got hit. Southern Colorado, directly on the edge of the Craton. So first, Colorado, 5.9. Then, Virginia, 5.9. Same day, 12 hours apart. So a flow was going from Colorado over to Virginia, obviously. And that was many years ago. So here we are now, and we have a flow going across all the way up to Massachusetts. Over on the East Coast, it's 1.9 and 1.8. Over on the West Coast, it's 4s. Now, I'm looking for this to go the next step up, and we're looking for the LA basin to get hit. However, we are literally on the last day of the watch, and nothing's hit except for a series of 3s going up to 3.7. Where did the 3.7 strike? Let's go take a quick look. So a near 4, let's just put it that way. A near 4 struck. South Valley down at the Garlock, and South Mojave Desert next to the military training base, the Marine base. So we could probably even discount the 3.3 possibly. But the 3.7 to near 4, south tip of the valley, on the Garlock, north of my warned area by about 100 miles, and about a magnitude under. If that was a 4.7, it would be exactly spot on. I was warning for an upper 4 to low 5 to strike in LA. Instead, we get an upper 3 to low 4. So 3.7 to 4 instead of 4.7 to 5. I'm a full magnitude off. Where's the energy? Well, it looks like some of it's down here, 5.4, and that's the exact size quake. I was looking for a 5 to come into the LA basin here. So far, let's look at the smaller earthquakes, see what hit in the LA basin. If we don't get it by tonight, guys, or tomorrow, I'm canceling the warning. It's been a week. So there it is. Okay, one lone quake in the middle of the LA basin. Where did it come in? Hold on. I just want to see. I'm not going to go look it up, or if it's interesting, we'll go look it up. But let's just see what the... Just northeast of LA. I wonder. Let's go look at it. 11-kilometer depth. It's been reviewed. That's a pretty obscure location name. Why wouldn't they just tell us what the name is? That's so weird when they do that. Let's go see what's there. Whenever they do that, there's sometimes, well, not whenever, but sometimes when they do that, there's something there that they don't want you to see. Oh, the subdivision. They probably live there, right? Okay. Where are we? What is this place? Oh, I guess I need to turn on my place names. That might help. Refrigeration supply. The highway patrol. What's all this across the street? A landfill? Wow, this is like, it's the sheriff's fleet management, the fire department, and a refrigeration. They don't want me to see the refrigeration. No, just kidding, guys. There's got to be something else here nearby that I'm just missing. Oh yeah, right across the road, right across the highway. An oil pumping operation. That's right. Forgot about this one. So on one side, we have a landfill. On the other side, you have oil pumps and jacks and derricks and so forth. Well, derricks, the last time we were looking, they were actually doing fresh drilling the last time we were in here. Let me find an oil well. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have oil and gas in LA. Everybody knows about it. If you live in there, it's no shock. This oil pumping operation actually goes throughout all the way over to here where the old landfills are. The old landfills. And we carry back up over to the east by southeast. And let this load just to show you what one looks like right next to a residential area. So they'll literally have them on the hills, on the back sides of houses, where you can see them from the houses' backyards. Anyway, all right, there we are. We're on the frack oil wells right next to them. I'm glad I went and checked, and I always look 6 to 10 miles. That's like 3 miles away. However, this is way under. We got a 3.7. I'm looking for a 5 or 4.9. Meanwhile, up on the north side, 3.3 came rolling in on the creeping section, or just north of the creeping section, or just south of San Francisco. 3.3. A line of earthquakes going back up to a big stack of earthquakes next to Mount Canocti, which is really a Clear Lake volcanic field, and the geothermal pumping operations. Drill points into a volcano there. And if you don't know about the drill points there, the location itself is called Geysers of California. Let's see if I can get that on the screen here for you. Okay, well, they have the make a liar out of me, right? Listed as Cobb, California. You know what? Depending on which earthquake you click on, it'll tell you either Cobb or the guy. Yeah, see? I swear they do that. They don't want the public to get alarmed when an earthquake swarm hits at the geysers as opposed to Cobb. Nobody cares if an earthquake swarm strikes at Cobb, a bunch of zeros and ones. But an earthquake swarm strikes at the geysers, all of a sudden every schmo in the world starts to worry about an eruption. So here we go. Wonderful. All right, now, geothermal pumping operations. Drill points that go down into volcanoes. Now, the geothermal actual turbines are on the hillsides, and the pipelines go out to points where they inject water. So they'll inject water down into the ground to steam it off, to bring it back up, to turn the turbines. Some of that water is sewage from human houses, your actual sewage. They leave the nasties down on the ground. Anyway, diagonal line coming out of the northwest, going down through the Bay Area with our 3.3 next to the creeping section of the San Andreas. Further carrying on down to the east by southeast with the 3.7 to near 4 on the Garlock, or southeast tip of the San Joaquin. I must call it the Juan de Fuca. San Joaquin Valley. And then going over to the east, Texas, flaring up with 3s. Going over to Oklahoma, flaring up with 2s up to near 3s. So it's 3s, 3s, 3s all the way across the plate so far, instead of 4s. And it's 4s on the west coast, out off the coast, instead of 5s. Therefore, so far, it's 3s on land, instead of upper 4s. If we get 3s instead of 4s, that's good. That's good. However, we look for the energy. Where does it go? Where does the energy go? It's going down to the south so far. We expect it to go down to the south and over to the east, and I expect new earthquake activity to break off where the current sets of rings overlap. So look where the sets of rings overlap here. Just south of the LA basin, or just north of San Diego. So if I'm going to re-up the warning, which I'm not, but if I were, I would issue a new warning for a 5 to strike imminently in the next day or two down south at San Diego instead of LA. It's literally a matter of like 50 miles or something, 75 miles. But I'm not going to issue a new warning on it. My warning expires tonight into tomorrow. Tomorrow, if nothing's hit by tomorrow, in LA. Then I will whip myself publicly for getting it wrong and shift the area south for a day. If nothing hits after that, then it's a total flop. But I already considered it a flop if it misses the first time. But who cares what I think? We're waiting for Mother Nature here. And clearly, the whole state, a day ago, set up with diagonal line of quakes going all the way down along the coast and along the border. Nothing's changed there. The only thing that's changed, a new 5 struck just south of where I was looking. Now, when I say just south, that's like 500 miles. I'm trying to get it down to 200 miles. So if it's 500 miles, I mean, it could be the earthquake we're looking for, but I'm not canceling the warning yet, okay? Now, we got to talk about the rest of this. 5.5 out off the coast of Central America, 5's going over to the east, 5's going over to the south by southeast, and a 6.7 down to the very south by southeast. Stepping stone path of the same sized earthquakes going in between them. This is just the East Pacific update. I haven't even touched on what's going on the rest of the planet. This is crazy. So over to the west, look what we've got. Same sized earthquakes, 5.4 and 5 to 5.5, right next to New Caledonia, on this U-shaped plate boundary here that then goes over to the west, where we have 4.7, 4.7, 4.6 to 4.7, and another 4.5 to 4.6, and another 4.7 all the way out over to the west. Wow. A lot of 4.7s. What are they going across? The 4.7s are going from here at this triangular bend in the plate over to the west, and you can follow them like a stepping stone path, just like what we were doing over here along South America, over to the west. So both sides of the Pacific are experiencing this equalization. And what's equalizing? Some kind of wave where the peaks are that far apart, thousands of miles apart, but it's somewhat spaced out equally. Some kind of standing wave. All right, so we're dealing with the same sized earthquakes over here in the West Pacific that we are dealing with over in the East Pacific. Exactly the same size, 5.4 to 5.5 on one side, 5.4 to 5.5 on the other. As we go further west, like I said, 4.7s, stepping stone path, and then we get to our other 5s, which are two 5.2s. Well, I'm sorry, 5.2 and a 5.1. On both sides of this, do you see what we're looking at here? We have a diamond-shaped plate boundary that goes up to the north into Japan and down to the south into Indonesia, over to the west, over to Taiwan, and over to the east to Guam. And we get somewhat of the same-sized earthquakes that break out on both sides of this diamond-shaped plate as it goes up to the north. And then up to the north, if you take these and all and add them together, it equals 5.1 as well. 4.9 plus 4.5 equals 5.005. Add in another 4 and another 4 and another 4 and another 4. All of a sudden, we're at 5.1. So it's about the same size energy on the coast of Japan. Up here, so on the north side of Japan on the plate boundary, 5.1's worth of energy across the whole area. And then we have literal 5.1s and 5.2s on both sides of the diamond shape here. And Taiwan previously broke just this past week with the devastating earthquake. Since then, look what else hit yesterday. 4.9 to 5.0 over next to Okinawa. Wouldn't you say a 4.9 is about the same size as a 4.9? Or wouldn't you say a 4.9 to 5 is about the same size as a 5 to 5.1? Again, we're getting equal distribution across an unequal mass. The unequal mass is this unequal plate boundary. It's not a perfect square or a rectangle. And Mother Nature is trying to equally distribute out this wave across the distance. We're getting the same sized earthquakes spreading out, following these red lines, the plate boundaries. I'm going to get over to Europe next. Let's just jump on over. Go over across the pink earthquakes from yesterday, and who got hit today? Stepping stone path of same-sized earthquake. Ugh. Stepping stone path of same-sized earthquake. Go across distance. Listen to me. For crying out loud, man. How could the professionals miss all this shit? Here I go again. I start swearing. Sorry. Anyway, same-sized earthquakes. Exactly the same size. 4.3. And I'm not cherry-picking these. I'm showing you everything 4.0 and greater. So we start with 4.2 to 4.3. Going to cross over out of China, following the arrows perfectly. Red arrow, perfectly followed. Why is there a red arrow there? Look what's coming out of China. Oh, wait. You can't see it. Here. Coming out of China, the red line, the plate boundary. And the earthquakes follow that perfectly through Iran, over to Turkey, and then back up into Italy and South Europe. Now, who got hit? Turkey. And what size struck Turkey? 5.3 to 5.4 plus swarm. Doesn't that sound familiar? 5.3 to 5.4 plus swarm. 5.3 to 5.4 plus swarm. 5.3 to 5.4 plus swarm. Or, well, actually, 5.4 to 5.5 plus swarm. Sure is a lot of the same sized earthquakes going across the entire planet. And I had issued a warning previously for Cyprus going into Syria, but then I adjusted and made it to the plate boundary in Turkey. Let me show you where we warned and where we adjusted from to. We had previously warned here, and halfway through the warning, I shifted the warning up to here, up to north, central, eastern Turkey, where the two plate boundaries meet. And here we are, right south of Azerbaijan, or just east of the Black Sea. So new 5.4 to 5.3, to 5.4. Then we take a stepping stone path of the same sized earthquakes, but they're all a magnitude less, across South Europe, up across Italy, France, and now we're right at the mouth of the English Channel. But I have to put on the brakes and talk about two things. One, the flow of earthquakes going across Italy this past week, which I don't even know if they're still here on the feed. Yeah, they are. They're marked in red. There we go. Let me show you. Look at Europe, and here's Italy. We had a series of earthquakes. I issued a forecast for a 4.5, or mid-range 4, to strike in Italy right here next to Norcia, Italy at the Abruzzo range. Then, a 4.4 hit right here at the Abruzzo range. The next day, a 4.4 and a 4.5 struck on the north side of the plate boundary in Italy going into France. Then, South France hit with a 4.7 or 4.5. It's up for debate. So, same-sized earthquakes went across Italy into South France. Then, at that time, I issued a warning for Holland. North Germany and Holland, but mainly Holland. Right off the coast of Holland, going off the east coast of the UK. Issued a warning for the same-sized quake, a 4.5, to strike out here, just east of the English Channel, somewhere right in here, where the arrow is. Well, imagine my surprise when an earthquake was reported near 3.0. I warned for a 4 instead of 3 hit. Off the coast of Holland, or right on the coast of Holland, at a place called Groningen, Groeinging or something. Groningen, Holland. And the mainstream media and the professionals came out and said it didn't mean anything, and that it was just a gas-related man-made earthquake or something. But then, and then they deleted the quake. But then after they deleted the quake and dismissed the quake that I issued a forecast for, then a series of earthquakes struck North Germany. Let me show you where they struck. This matters. This really matters. You have to pay attention to what I'm saying for the people in Europe. Please listen to me. And everybody else, you got to listen to what I'm telling you. This really matters. For real. Okay, so here's Netherlands. And I had warned off the coast of Netherlands, mouth of the English Channel going into the North Sea, right in here, for 4.0 level activity. 3.0 strikes somewhere in here. Oh, there's Groningen. Right there. Okay. And it matters that Groningen is there. Then, they dismissed it, said it was normal. Oh, that's the other thing. They said it was normal. It's not normal. Anyway. A series of smaller earthquakes then struck right down here at the East Eifel volcanic field. A bunch of twos, several twos, not a bunch, but several twos, hit at the volcanic field here, just south of the Dutch border, the Netherlands. And they couldn't dismiss those. So while they dismissed the ones, they didn't dismiss the others. So then, yesterday, here, see where it says, see these countries over here to the east? There's something called the Nord pipeline that goes across the Baltic Sea and comes down here, and it goes just north of Poland and comes into North Germany. And then there's a secondary pipeline that comes off the Nord pipeline, NordStream pipeline, and it goes into the Netherlands on a secondary pipeline, and it comes in through northeast Netherlands. I don't know exactly where, but somewhere up here near Groningen. And then, yesterday, it was reported that something happened to the pipeline out here in the Baltic Sea, and it's been blown up, destroyed. Now, the earthquakes that struck beforehand, I just gotta talk about it. I have to tell you, I don't know what to make of it. I'm not saying the earthquakes caused it. I'm saying it's possible that seismic can cause pipelines to shift, especially if there's something serious going on. But an explosion, I don't know. Explosions are different. Now, if there was some kind of shift with some kind of magma going on down there, that could ignite, I suppose, or detonate or something. But still, it needs oxygen to detonate, I think, and even gas needs oxygen underwater to detonate. Anyway, so the real question is, of course, is who did it and how did it happen? And people were asking me about the earthquakes. Could it cause a pipeline to break? Oh, certainly, yes. Seismic shift, yeah. If the plate is shifting, we can certainly see pipelines break, undersea pipelines, above ground pipelines. We've seen it in the United States and California and other places. So, wait, it's happened before. But this is a little different. I have to bring it up because of the timing. One day after, or literally within the same 24-hour news cycle time frame, that we have these earthquakes, they get dismissed as whatever, they're literally right next to where the frickin' pipelines are, and then boom, the gas goes bye-bye for Europe. And now they're in serious, serious bad shape. Now, same time that's going on, a transfer has been going on out to the west by northwest of Europe entirely. Now, many people asking me about this one. They're like, Dutch, what do you think's going on out there? Whole bunch of 4s and 5s. Going up to, what, 5.8? Let's just call that a 6. A rare 6 at the Reykjanes Ridge. Reykjanes. Come on, guys. Come on, man. You're trolling by making those names. So let's just back it out. Take a look. Mid-Atlantic Ridge, not very well shown on the USGS map. You can see it better here on the NOAA map, or you can even see it even better over here on the USGS plate boundary map. The big, thick red line that cuts the entire Pacific in half. Anyway, we go up here to the north, and that's where the quake is. Look where it is. It's at the pinnacle tip of where Europe reaches out and touches with Laurentia, North America, where they meet. The pinnacle tip. Exactly. Right? So, what's going on? We have a push coming out from Europe, going in this trajectory, jumping off Italy like a ramp, going up across, hence our earthquakes up here off the coast of Holland, or, well, border of Germany, and then going up on both sides, splitting on both sides of Iceland. And the earthquakes on the north side of Iceland, about the same size, just less, next to Svalbard. In the middle, big eruption going on, or just finished, or whatever. So big eruption and seismic in Iceland previously, in the middle, now on both sides. Somewhat equally spaced on both sides, wouldn't you say, if you go around the bends of the plate boundary. Again, measuring from the north down to the south, it's about the same distance if you take this bend in the plate here into account. So same distance from Iceland down to the red dot is same distance up to the earthquakes up to the north by Svalbard, but you just got to straighten that out. Okay? To see it. Now, what I'd also like to show you is the last 7 days' worth of earthquakes across the entire planet, and even the untrained eye should be able to make out that we're going from pretty much all the way up north, all the way down south, and it's about the same size movement on the north side and the south side. If you add it all together, all the 5s on one side equal about somewhere in the 6 range, and we have 6 on the south side. In between, stepping stone path of pretty much the same size quakes. A 5, a 5, a 4.9, and a 4.7, and a 4.7. So about the same size, the smallest in the middle so far. And that's what we would expect, because the energy has to go around South America on the north side, go around South America on the south side, and almost like a pincher, and we're coming back on this side of the plate with the wave. The wave is spreading around the plate. And then that takes us back to the United States, that takes us back to Alaska, that takes us back over to the West Pacific. So I hope this little update helps. I'm not issuing a new forecast yet. We're waiting. My warning for New Zealand on the North Island expires tomorrow for a 5.2. So I hope I'm wrong. Somebody told me a 4.7 hit, but it hit down south. 4.7 hit somewhere down here. USGS not reporting it, guys. I would have to go turn on the New Zealand feed to even see the quakes down in New Zealand because you're being ignored all of a sudden. It's almost like they don't want us to see the quakes that are hitting down in New Zealand. I mean, a 4.7. I was told the USGS doesn't report anything under 4.5, but that they're really good about reporting stuff under above 4.5 internationally. Well, there it is. Oh, wait, that's not south. Dang, that's really close. But it's on the plate boundary to the south. I issued a warning for Taupo volcano on the North Island. But, I mean, come on, we got a new 4.7. This is from the New Zealand agency itself. So, it's not up for debate. Here, let me click on it here. Let's see what it says. Yeah. There we go. I mean, come on, proof positive right there. USGS is cherry-picking earthquakes they don't want to report to you. You know why they don't want to show you a 4.7 in New Zealand on the plate boundary after the other earthquake that struck? You know why? I'll tell you why, but you're not going to like it. They don't want you to see a progression going down the plate boundary. They said there was no progression, so when one happens, they omit it. It's scandalous, right? Science scandal? I don't know. It's dishonorable or whatever. Maybe they don't. Whatever. Scandalous. That's the word. All right. Now, before we go any further, do you have an earthquake plan? When we start to see big spreads like this of 5s, and previously, last week, we were dealing with 7s, the spread is what happens in between the big earthquakes. So a spread like this, I want to ask you a simple question that you might have to take a few seconds to think about. How much energy do you think it would take to move the whole planet in 48 hours' time on a 5 to 5.5 basis, and then on one side, big activity, and on the other side is where the big activity already happened? Big activity on one side, big activity on the other, and big spread in between. Do you think that would take a lot or a little bit of energy to move the quote-unquote whole planet? Or, well, maybe it's not the whole planet. Anyway, we'll get into that some other time, too. Some of the stuff I'm finding is a little bit disturbing about the planet and its possible size. Anyway, let's just recap and tell you all you have an earthquake plan. That's probably the best thing you could do is be prepared just in case. You could have an emergency kit. It'll get you through all kinds of stuff. You need to have a change of clothes and a set of shoes and food and water and blah, blah, blah. Batteries for flashlights. And you'll think of all kinds of stuff to put into your emergency kit. But I think everybody should probably do it at this point. At least have the emergency kit readily available. I don't know if you'll be able to get to it or not, but it is what it is. Hey, check it out. USGS has upgraded the earthquake from 6.5 to 6.7. Or is that GeoNet? No, it's GeoNet. GeoNet has it at 6.7. We got to turn these overestimating fearmongers off. How dare they? How dare you? That's my best British impersonation. By the way, I'm going to come over and take over. The reverse British invasion. On my way. Be prepared. You guys, be safe. And if anything else goes down, I'll jump back on at a moment's notice. I will record a video. I know I'm not live over on Twitch. People telling me to come back. I'm getting things arranged. Let's just put it that way. Getting things arranged for someone else to do the stream is a little harder than I thought. Paying someone to do it, but I gotta wait for things and all kinds of other stuff. Gotta wait for the month to start. Gotta wait for October to start, guys. Give away all of my secrets. It is now 12 a.m., spot on the money. Probably a good time for me to save the video. So my overall gist on this is that we are going to go back up. Think of this like surfing. Just had huge waves come in. And there's going to be more that come in between where the previous waves hit. And they're going to be coming in the next few days. The lull in between the wave isn't really that much of a lull. It's like a stormy sea. Look at it. All these 5s striking in a day. Literally in a day. Look at it. All the way around the United States, for instance. Another way to look at this is just all around Laurentia. Do you see this? Let's get all the smallers out of there. Going from the coast of Mexico, down to the Cocos Plate, over to the east, all the way across the Caribbean, out to the mid-Atlantic, and then up to the far northeast of the United States, or Laurentia, up here. And that's really around, what is that? 3/4 of around Laurentia itself just moved with 5s. And the adjacent plates. And then you can see the spread going down to the south, I think. I hope you can. There's only one spot in the middle that needs to be filled in for it to be a perfect stepping stone path all the way across South America, for instance. This is why I'm so mind-blown that the professionals missed this. Because, I mean, honestly, even the untrained eye should be able to see equally spaced dots on a screen, you know? I mean, maybe I'm giving everybody too much credit, you know? People were like, I didn't even know this was here. I don't know. Maybe the professionals didn't know. Or maybe they did. And they just ran out everybody who found it because this conflicts with everything they said. Because the earthquakes are going in the opposite way and we're told the plates move. I'm not doubting that the plates move, and I'm not doubting GPS, or maybe I should. But I am doubting that that every professional in the world missed this. Somebody had to have found this before. Equidistant spaced quakes across the plates, happening within days of each other, all the same size. How could they miss it? Had to be suppressed. Had to be. And then here I come along. Bull in a china shop. High school grad. Thinks they'd never seen it before? Well, I mean, most of them hadn't, because it's been hidden from their own professionals, so they're hiding it from each other. And then I come along and show everybody. And they're all like, you know how many people have said this to me? If what you're saying is true, why haven't the professionals discovered it? Why haven't the professionals said anything? And I just get quiet. I'm like, man, if you knew what they called for my arrest. And filed legal claims against me, too. I just found that out. Let's end the broadcast here before I go into a rant. Did you guys know this? USGS filed legal claims against me. You guys know that? Saying I stole their logo. Saying I stole their logo. And it was a violation of U.S. code such and such, and that I was improperly using their logo for my benefit. You want to know what really happened? USGS issued a public statement about me on Twitter. I took a screenshot of their statement about me, which had their Twitter avatar, and I posted it. Posted it on my website, made a sticker out of it, made a t-shirt out of it, and they said I couldn't use it. And it got legally disputed. Turns out I have every right to use it. It's not illegal. Turns out when they say something about you, you can take a screenshot of it or a photo of it, or you can use it directly if they issue like it in writing, some kind of memo. You get a copy of it. It's got their logo at the top. You can use the whole letterhead, and you can put it into a book if you want and write a book for profit. Turns out when the government says something about you, you can use it with their little logo next to it. But they tried to put me in jail for that. How about that? Yeah, anyway, all right, 12:04, nothing to rant about, nothing to worry about, Dutch. Just the government trying to put you in the clink. Over earthquake forecasting. Do you know what to do when an earthquake hits? You're supposed to take shelter underneath a table or a desk. Do you have a table or a desk to get underneath? Or are all your glass tables around you just laying around there looking like good things to get under? I don't know if you'd want to get under glass, guys. Just telling you right now. So you might need to have a wooden table or desk to get underneath. Just a little advice from me. Another little thing I'd suggest, and I'm not trying to be too flippant, but you should probably also have a set of shoes or a set of hard bottom slippers by the side of your bed. I know, it sounds so stupid, and it sounds so pathetic, these steps to take against an earthquake. But if things are broken across the floor, and you don't have a set of shoes or a set of hard bottom slippers by the side of your bed, you're going to wish you did. And I'm just being annoying about it at this point. But I got to tell you, because otherwise people won't do it. I mean, what is the mainstream media going to get on and tell you to do it? Don't forget to put a set of shoes by the side of your bed. Have a good night. 10 p.m. See you back at news at 9 in the morning. I just don't think it's going to happen. They barely tell you when a hurricane's hitting, or they over-exaggerate it when it does. And then when a real hard one hits, they tell you it's going to be a Category 1, like they did with this one down in Florida. 2 days ago, Category 1. Today, Category 4. I mean, if that's not a case to be prepared, I don't know what is. I'm ranting. Time to go. Peace out.